Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of all different shapes and sizes, welcome back to another episode of the Keystone Chronicles podcast, the podcast where we put Pennsylvania outdoorsmen on the spotlight. And this week we have a great guest, and honestly, I think one of the top guys that you can follow here on the social media platforms if you're in Pennsylvania and you want to see some hunting and fishing action. Gauge Gulvas. He also runs the Hardwoods Hunting TV page and YouTube channel. Guys, he's a straight killer, and he's one of the hard way guys, if you will. You know, you're going to see him do a lot of trad archery stuff. You're going to see him with the fly rod. He's just one of them guys that you want to follow, and he really has an exciting journey and a lot of adventures, man. So in the episode, we go over a whole bunch of stuff. He's one of those guys that you can't really just put in a corner and say, hey, we just want to talk about this, right? Because he just has his toes in so many different waters here. And he is a younger guy, but he's very well accomplished, and he is surrounded by a lot of people that know what they're doing also. So don't be afraid to reach out to Gage, man. The conversation's great. We look forward to having something later on in the year with him and some other guests in person. And I think you guys are really going to enjoy this one. We just go over his season in review and throw in a couple stories here and there. So, guys, thank you so much for listening. Love the support. Remember to go like, comment, and subscribe for the show. Does wonders for everything on my end. Thank you so much. Please enjoy, and God bless. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Keystone Chronicles podcast. Guys, this one has been a long time coming. I've been following this gentleman's journey for a long time. Love the adventures that he goes on. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Gauge Gulvas, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. It's been looking forward to this one for a little while.
I mean, to me, if you want to check out some PA hunters and want to see some people on some really cool journeys, man, you got to be up there. And I'm sure a lot of people that listen to this show will agree, man. I love watching you kill things and have cool adventures, and you're out there living it, man. You know. So as we get started here, man, who are you? Where you're from? How about sell yourself a little bit here for us?
All right. I'm Gauge Gulvas. I'm 22 years old. I'm from DuBois, Pennsylvania, which if you don't know where that is, it's like the north central part. My dad's had me out in the woods since I was about 6 months old. He said I was 6 months old when I saw my first gobbler called in. So I've been out there since I was still in diapers. But yeah, I love hunting. I love fly fishing, and if there's something you can hunt or fish in Pennsylvania, I'm more than likely going after it. I got into filming when I was about 15 years old and never really looked. Sometimes it can be a pain, but when it does come all together, it's a lot of fun. And I have a YouTube channel called Hardwoods Hunting TV. I've been posting on there for about 7 years now, and I think I have about 150 videos. So if you ever get bored sometime, want to entertain yourself, there's some good ones, and there's some just thrown together videos. If anyone films, they know how that goes. But I love to hunt with the traditional bow. I got into hunt the recurve when I was 15. And once I got into that, the first year I did it, I got a buck, and I never looked back there either. I love challenging and doing everything the hardest way possible. So self-filming, hunting with the recurve, and fly fishing seems to be the best way I can challenge myself, and I absolutely love it.
I am right behind you, man. The trad stuff is something I get more and more intrigued with every year, and I'm sure it'll be one of those 2 feet forward things coming soon. But you know, as your year was so good, man, and many others before that, we were talking before we come on, and I was like, shit, man, I don't know what the hell we're gonna talk about with you, because you got it going on all angles, and it's really hard to keep it on one thing. So for the 2023 year, man, tell me how it started. You know, turkey season come around. You know, we don't really have to do any second season, and unless you want to talk flintlock or whatever. But you know, how did 23 begin for you, man? Where were you at? What were you doing? And let's hear about some success or even some failures.
Yeah, I'll touch on it real quick. At the very beginning of 2023, my best friend got a beagle. So we started getting into chasing rabbits with beagles, and that was a blast, and we learned a lot really quick. He had a dog. It was an adult dog that he got from someone that just couldn't take care of it anymore.
Yep.
So it wasn't like we had a nice puppy to break in and stuff. It was already a dog with bad habits. And the first time we took it out, it chased bunnies, but it took us about an hour and a half just to get the dog back in to get it to the truck. But we started doing that, and that was just something different I've never done. I mean, my whole life, me and my dad, we've always been really die-hard hunters. We've always really pounded it, but it was always just mostly like deer and turkey, obviously. Then we do some small game stuff, but we never really. As I'm getting older here, I just want to, and if I can hunt it, I want to do it, and I want to be good at it. So we dove head over heels into rabbit hunting there, and we trained the dog, and we got into it late. We did it for about 1 month, and the season ended. And that 1 month, that dog really advanced, but that was just a blast, and that's how it started. So we got a couple of rabbits to start off the year, and then that took us into March, and then March starts, and that's whenever I start fishing. And up north, I have a camper in Driftwood, and then I have a camp in Crossworks, right on Kettle Creek there. And I'm up there pretty much every weekend fly fishing in the early spring, unless it's turkey season then. And you know how that goes. Fishing starts, and you just go and you fish and have a good time at camp with buddies. Yeah. But then last year, around the middle of April, we started. This was did for myself, and we went down to Virginia. We went down there the last 2 years in a row. And the first year we went down, we hunted just public land, and we ran into a lot of guys. But down there in Virginia, you can buy a 3-day license. So we just buy the 3-day license for Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Okay. And being in school and stuff, that's all the more time I could go down. So first we went down, and the second day we called him a big gobbler, and he got to about 50 yards. And there was guys all around us calling stuff, and somehow it just come into our setup. It kind of snuck in out nice and close, and right when we set up, we had some guys walking behind us calling, which that might have helped us too, because they were way behind us calling even to make it sound like the hen was farther away. Yeah. Popped out about 50 yards, and I didn't put a decoy out because I was nervous, because down in Virginia you can use rifles. You can use up to a .223 to hunt turkey, and I was like, the last thing I want to do is get shot. So I usually put out a decoy. I mean, kind of getting away from it, especially in Pennsylvania. I haven't put out a decoy in a few years just because, like I said, I like to challenge myself. So try to do like public land, hardwoods, no decoy. But I did put a decoy out there just for the safety factor, and gobbler popped out about 50 yards. And I had a 410, so needless to say, 50 yards is a bit too far, and the gobbler ended up slipping away from us. So then last year, I talked to a buddy from my hometown, and here his family owns some land down in the southern part of Virginia. So I'm like, hell yeah, let's go. I'm like, so me and my buddy that went down the year before, and then my other buddy that had the land, we all went down, 3 of us. And I'm like, this should be awesome, nice good chunk of private land in Virginia. And got down there the first day, and the weather was really crappy. It was really windy and rainy. We heard one gobbler, and we ended up seeing it, and there was a big river valley there, and it ended up flying across the river that day. And we're like, man. I was like, well, at least we know there's a gobbler here, and there's enough land, there should be more birds. So the next morning we went there, and right at daybreak, there was birds gobbling all over the place. It was a nice, humid, warm morning, calm. And oh my goodness, the birds down there was just unbelievable. It's like my dad and grandpa and cousins always talk about how turkey hunting in Pennsylvania in the 90s was insane. Pretty much like every ridge top you call off of, you could hear a gobble. Right. And that's how it was down there. It was phenomenal. So that first day, we sat down by the river. There's a big cliff, probably a 300-foot cliff across from us. And there was 3 birds who stood right on the point of that cliff. And I just made some soft tree yelps and stuff, just made it sound like there was a hen down there roosted. And they pitched from the top of that cliff, and they flew right across the river, right down in, the first one landed about 5 yards from me. And we have it on video, and it's just an absolutely gorgeous video. It was unbelievable. One of the coolest things I've seen hunting. And it ended up being 3 jakes flew down. And I gave them some time just to make sure there wasn't a gobbler in the area. And they ended up coming to my right, so I swung real slow to my right and picked out the closest one and shot it. But I don't, like in Pennsylvania, being my home state, I would never shoot a jake. But for that being my first out-of-state male turkey, I didn't really care. I just wanted to get it under my belt. Right. I feel so, we did that. I got that jake. That was right off the bat about 6:15 in the morning. And then I had my 2 buddies with me down there. I'm like, well, let's keep going. And around 8 o'clock, we shook up 2 more gobblers across the river. I'm like, let's just set up here and see what happens. And I sat behind them about 15 yards, and I just did I did like some real aggressive calling, just making it known I was there. And then I shut up. And within 15 minutes, I heard a putt, and I looked up. There's 2 gobblers standing right by me. I like flew across the river and come right up that steep hill. And here, my buddy Charlie, he shot a real nice gobbler. It was a big gobbler, had like an 1.25 spurs, about a 10 beard. He shot it. So by the second day, by 8:30, we had 2 gobblers down.
Nice.
And then the next morning in Virginia was our last day we could hunt there. And we thought the second day was good. We heard probably about 6 to 8 birds. The last morning, I don't know what it was about. It must have been the pressure or something, or I don't know. But even like the birds chirping and the crows calling was so loud, it almost hurt your ears. Like, it's hard to describe. It's almost like a sensory overload of how loud all nature was that morning. Oh. But we heard about gobblers, and from one tree, we ended up calling in 4. The first 2 got by us, so they came in solo, both of them, and we just couldn't get a shot. And then 2 came in together, and my buddy, one was about 10 yards, and one was behind it about 25. I let my buddy shoot first because he was the last one to not get a bird, and he shot, and I popped up and shot the second one and missed it clean. But we ended up getting 3 birds in 3 days down there, so that was the hunting for 2023, and it was quite a way to get the year rolling.
Yeah, I would say so, man. That'll spoil you real quick.
Yeah, it was. I was like, man, hopefully I get one in Pennsylvania because I already was pretty content with that. It was just a great start. It was like nothing I'd ever witnessed. I know when I was younger, because I could start hunting when I was 6 was the first year I could hunt, and I got a gobbler that year. Mm-hmm. And like the first 3 years of hunting turkeys, it just seemed like we were always working birds. And I know in the last 3 years or so, it's not a guarantee to hear a gobbler every day anymore.
No, man, it's definitely not. Turkey season it isn't what it used to be when I was growing up. I can tell you that. Like, it's a lot of fun, and it's still really good in Pennsylvania. And I attest it probably to because of how late it comes in, and it probably mm-hmm. really is what saves a lot of our birds. But yeah, man, I can remember growing up when I was younger, and like, dude, you would call and it'd just be turkeys everywhere. Like,
yeah, that's what my dad and stuff, they talk about the 90s turkey hunting, his friends. They said it was just, like he said, it's how it was down, how I was in Virginia, just unbelievable.
Yeah. And like you said, not that it's bad. I mean, turkey hunting in Pennsylvania is still very good, and there's still lots of
No, and it is. And I think the turkeys were definitely down. They've come down, but I'm seeing a pretty steady rise within the last 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll just continue probably to rise back up, because I will say that this year I did see a lot of polyps and which was really nice and really cool, and it's been a couple years since I've seen as many as I did. And I know mm-hmm. Right now the Game Commission, they have something going on where you can report where you're seeing a bunch of them at, and I don't know what they're doing with all that data, but I know that there is a program right now for that.
Yeah, I've read into that program before a little bit.
Yep. Which is pretty cool. Our state still seems to try to do a good job. I am not a biologist, but I do think, and I'd like to know, this could be a bad take, I don't know, but we do a lot of cutting, clear cutting and whatnot for improvements on game lands and other areas. And I just wonder if sometimes all that overgrowth, them birds get in there if a lot of predation, goes on then. You know what I'm saying? Because that
would definitely make sense. I could get behind that.
Yeah,
for sure.
They kind of have a hard time getting up out of that, and then, geez, nowadays it's nothing for you to go out and hear guys shot 3 or 4 coyotes, and you got guys killing bobcats all over the place, and
mm-hmm.
You got fishers around now. When I was growing up, we didn't have no freaking fishers. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
And then now, which I'd like to look into and see what's going on, but I'd like to know if the pine marten will have anything to do with any predation of turkeys, because I can't imagine they're not egg suckers, but I could be wrong. I don't know much about them. Moving forward, I think that the show's going to have somebody who's a little more educated come on and talk about that.
Yeah, that'd be good. I'm almost positive I read something not too long ago that they declined the pine marten reintroduction.
Yeah, it was some sort of setback they had, but I do believe that they were able to release some in one of the states somewhere.
Yeah, I sure hope they never do that in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Like you said, there's enough predators here, and there's enough. Yeah, I'd rather see the prey do better than the predators.
Yeah. There's lots of things that they have. If it's up to me, as many hawks as I see, goodness gracious, I see so many hawks. I don't know. I mean, I know there's not a season on them and they're protected, but sometimes I wonder, like, who's making that call? Because I see, goodness gracious, so many of them. I see just as many crows sometimes as I do hawks.
I was actually just talking with a buddy about the increase I've seen in eagles since I've been a kid. Growing up to like up in Potter County all the time, I'm following the creeks the whole way up,
right,
driving along the whole way, and you'd see an eagle here and there, and it was always very cool. I haven't went up north without seeing an eagle in probably 5 years. Every single trip I see at least one, and we just saw 2 different ones back down at home last week shed hunting. So like, I'm sure. I mean, that's a heck of a predator there, the 6-foot wingspan.
Oh my goodness,
stuff they kill.
Oh, yeah.
I think that they're really having an impact on animals as well. Because like I've seen like an eagle nest with a fawn in the limb before.
Yeah, that's pretty wild, man. But yeah, I could easily see how they could do it. I mean, they are one hell of a predator.
Yes, they are.
But yeah, I mean, it's all part of that ecosystem, and you just got to watch how much you play with it. You go down the road of talking about the wolves being released out west and shit, and holy heck, that is one alpha predator there, and
yeah, it could be something.
Yeah, I mean, holy heck, they are a killing machine. You take a coyote and make them 4 times bigger than what they are, and make them 6 times smarter than what a coyote is, and then you got a wolf, So,
absolutely.
But reeling it back in a little bit, I know that you are a big turkey guy, man, and you come from a long line of turkey hunters. And do you want to give any shout outs to anybody that you grew up with that introduced you and brought you up? Like, was it dad? Was it mom? Was it family members that showed you the ropes for the outdoors? And just want to talk about that real quick.
Yeah, I can do that. It's my dad for sure. My dad just had me out in the woods. Like I said, he said, because I saw my first gobbler called in when I was 6 months old.
That's awesome.
He said I went out for the one day, and he had me with his backpack carriers.
Yeah.
He called him a gobbler, and he got back to the truck and thought he was all sweaty. And here I just pissed all over his back.
That's funny, man.
But and my grandpa, my grandpa's the only person I know who got a gobbler in the very first Pennsylvania spring turkey season and the 50th spring turkey season in Pennsylvania.
That's awesome, man. That is really cool.
He's been in it since the first year they have had it. But also, so my grandpa and Denny Gulvas are first cousins, and they used to, back in the day, they would go to a guy. His name was Bob Potash, I believe. He lived over in Brockway he called his house the Turkey Track Lodge.
Yeah.
So apparently he was absolutely obsessed with turkey hunting. He got pet turkeys, and they would run a microphone into the cage and then run the microphone back into the house, and they would sit there in the house and listen to turkey calls and drink beer. And I guess the one pet turkey they had, they call him Chuck Chuck, and they would walk it around like a dog. They take it out in the woods and walk right beside them and stuff. And the one interesting story about that is one time they were walking Chuck Chuck, and they said my grandpa said it disappeared. They didn't know where it went. They're like, where'd it go? And they're like, West One Fort and stuff. And next thing you know, they're looking at a skunk come sneaking through. And as soon as the skunk left, here comes Chuck Chuck out of nowhere. But yeah, he has some really interesting stories about learn how they turkey hunt and call, and how they'd be building turkey calls. And like Grandpa's kitchen, my grandpa and Denny were building turkey calls using milk cartons and the latex from condoms.
Wow. Yeah,
that's how they got their start into making the Gulvas call.
Yeah, that is awesome, man. That is so cool to hear. And I mean, that's Pennsylvania heritage core.
Yeah,
just get it done any way that you can. And like you said, the heritage is so strong. It's awesome. But so your Pennsylvania season, man, how was it for turkey?
It was good. It was definitely one of the better seasons I had, and I've been very fortunate. The last since I starting my senior year of high school was a COVID year. So we got out of school in like March and had all the spring off. And then the way my school schedule works is our finals like the last week of April, first week of May. So for the last 4 turkey seasons, I've had every single day to hunt, and I made a point to not get a job in that time. Like I always started my summer job June 1st. I take all of May off so I can hunt turkey. So in the last 4 years, I've only missed 5 days, and that's all because I think 2 I had stuff going on, and then 3 I just decided I think it was raining almost all those days. I've pretty much not missed a day for 4 years. Yeah. But last season was no different. I kept pounding. And the first day, and the night before I went out, and there's a bench I hunt, and there's just always turkeys there. It's just it's a nice setup. Down the bottom's a little creek. There's a bunch of points that come together. And I hunt the one bench I have access to. I access it to like a piece of private, and then the bench is actually down to public. And so I went there the night before. I'm like, I'm just going to go here and listen. And I sat there for about half an hour. I'm just kind of sitting there on my phone, looking around. I sat about an hour till dark. And I look to my right and I catch movement. Doesn't hear come a big, lonely longbeard. Walks right by me 30 yards. I watched him feed right down this bench the whole way for about 45 minutes. Right before light, he stopped and looked around, and he ran as fast as he could. I'm like, oh, how did he see me? Like, I spooked him. Then he flew up into a tree right above him. I watched him roost. I'm like, this is looking pretty good for the morning. So I came back in the morning. I got in there early. It was probably close to 2 hours for sunrise. And so I'm waiting for him to gobble, and I set up a little bit to the left of him. I tried setting up right where he ran up because I figured that's where he'd fly down to. And I didn't call at all. I was just I'm like, he's going to land on this bench where he fed. It seems like every time I think something's going to happen, it never does. So there's some gobblers across the hollow gobbling. There's a couple together. And this bird never gobbles. So I'm like, I must have spooked him coming in the dark. I'm like kicking myself. I'm like, man, what should I do? Like, it's only 6:15. Like, give it some time. Like, just be patient. And right around 6:15, I caught a glimpse of him. He pitched down, he flew down into the bottom of the hollow. I'm like, shoot. I'm like, I definitely spooked him then. So I just started, I called it real soft. And then he just instantly, pow. I'm like, well, that's interesting. I'm like, I wonder why I never gobbled on the roost. I'm guessing probably a group of gobblers were more dominant than his, with him being by himself. But I called a few times real soft, and he hammered every time. And within about 5 minutes, I looked, and here I seen that white head peeking over that bench. He's coming in real slow and half strut. And I got it. It was the first, probably the best self-film I ever got. And you can see him comes up, and he walks right down the bench and half strut the whole way. He gives me a nice, strong gobble, like 40 yards. And he got to about 32 yards. And he poked his neck up because he got to where I was been calling from. He knew he was either, like, he should have saw something. So he poked his neck up real slow. And I peeked through the scope, and it was like real rainy on the first day of the 2023 season. It was real rainy and humid, like. And I have a 4-power Leopold scope in my 410. I peeked through that scope, and wasn't it foggy? I could barely see.
Oh, man.
I'm like, oh no.
Oh, man. And
it actually, because I was so worked up, I'd have rushed a shot for sure. I might have still made it, but I get so worked up sometimes. And it helped me actually focus. I had to really focus through that fog on the scope. And I put it on and squeezed off, and he rolled over and didn't even flop. So I was tagged out the first day at 6:19 in the morning.
Nice. Talk about in and out, man.
Yeah, it was the best on the limb hunt one of the best on the limb hunts I've ever had.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, I've talked to a lot of turkey hunters, and I am myself not the best turkey hunters. I like to go, and I like to spend a lot of time in the woods, and here and there, I'll get lucky. But when you set up on birds and as many birds as you killed, how often do you shoot them coming towards you uphill? They're coming from downhill, uphill to you, versus you being down below them and they come down to you?
I don't know if I've ever caught a bird downhill to me, to be honest. I always make it a point to set up above them. Very few times I've ever sit down below them, but almost every time they're above you, it never works out too good. Honestly, I'll go out of my way to get above that bird. Yeah. Like I shot a bird one time up north in the Hammersley Wild area, which is enormous, and it's big country. Right. And I heard him gobble, and he was just slightly above me, but I had to do about a 200-yard sprint as fast as I could up the hill just to try to get on the same level as him. And it worked out. He come right down that same pattern, the same height I was up the hill. But I think if I'd have stayed where I was when I first heard him, he might have stayed up above me because he's up there so big and you see the whole way down to the creek bottoms. Right. But yeah, I'll make it a point to try to get above them. And a lot of time whenever I set out to turkey hunt, I have because I've been hunting some spots. Like when I go to a new spot, you never know. But most spots I've been hunting for years, and I almost hunt exclusively public land for turkeys in the spring. And so I know I'll go to this ridge, bounce from ridge to ridge. So I'm always above them, or if I hear them on the top, we're the same altitude.
Yeah, it's funny, man. I get that same answer from lots of different people, and I feel like that's one thing like a lot of turkey hunters don't talk about. Like, but if you can, and from what I know, I always try to do the same: is set up above them, make them come up the hill to you, and then obviously, like you were saying, if you can find a real nice bench, then you're in the best position you can be. There's a reason.
Absolutely.
There's a reason why they call it a military crest. So.
Yeah, those turkeys, they come up and they'll poke their head up every time they call one over. They'll poke their head up real quick first and see what they see. Then they commit.
Yeah.
They never just come running up over the hill. I think they like that for the security. Now, I've also noticed that gobblers seem to like real steep side hills, and I think it's because they can fly. If they get into danger, they can just open their wings and pitch off. They don't have to fly, run. They just open their wings and glide, and they're gone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I always found gobblers tend to be on real nice steep side hills.
Yep. Same, man. Same. Seen the same things. As far as you use a 410, and what do you use, like a TSS, or what's the?
Yeah, I use the Federal Premium TSS 9-shot.
Okay, and that's a 3-inch.
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, man. That is a newer thing that I've seen a lot of people get into, is using a single shot 410, and I actually I had to get one for myself. I have an older one here, but it's the first gun that my dad ever bought me. It's a 410 single shot break. Doesn't even have a hammer. It's hammerless.
That's cool.
It's so little, it's so hard to pull a hammer back, or he was afraid, I'd get halfway back and then let one rip. So, yeah, it is. It's a really good youth gun. It's not a youth gun, but it's very good for youth. And we ended up getting one of those, the Rossi 410 guns.
Yep.
It's a nice gun, man. It's really cool. That 3-inch thing. The only thing is, holy heck, man, the 410 stuff it's expensive for them little bullets.
Oh my! The tungsten shot's expensive in general.
Right.
I can only justify buying it for turkey season. I can't justify buying it for anything else.
Right. Yeah, I feel that, man, for sure. So, so turkey season ends, and then summer kind of comes around, and I know you're fishing. That's a gimme. I know you're a big fly guy. Man, I could me and you could chop it up about fishing, but we'll move right into you guys. I think I've seen you playing around with some snakes. Is that something you're into?
Yeah, we got into that 2 years ago, and it's surprisingly one of my favorite things to hunt in Pennsylvania now.
That's cool. That is cool. Yep.
I don't even know why I got into it. My whole life I grew up, I can't stand, every time I see a snake, I get the heebie-jeebies. Even now to see like a gardener snake slither out, I get the heebie-jeebies, but something about a rattlesnake just gets me going. It's just the adrenaline is so much. It's so fun.
Yeah.
But we got into that 2 years ago. I think I just felt like I don't know. I felt rebellious or what. But I'm like, I'm gonna go chasing rattlesnakes. Like, how cool would that be?
That's funny.
Living on the edge. The first year we got into it, and we were so scared shitless. We barely ever got out of the car. We pretty much only road cruised.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think. We found one on the road, and we found 2 dead ones. And the last day of the season, I had a buddy around my camp. He knew of a den. So we went to this den, and we ended up catching our first one we ever caught. It was a 51-inch black male.
Mm-hmm.
And if you know anything about rattlesnakes, 50 inches is like that mark to hit. That's like that Pope and Young market for deer.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
50 inches is the hit mark to hit. And it was 51. That's the first one we ever caught and tagged. So we were like pumped up. And then we kept it and we ate it.
Mm-hmm.
And surprisingly enough, rattlesnake is very, very, it tastes very, very good,
mm-hmm.
but it has the consistency of almost like bubble gum. It's real chewy. I know when we cooked it up, we had a few celebratory beers, which definitely helped it go down.
Right.
So I don't know how it'd be if you were stone cold sober.
Right, man. But you know how many people get to see that they say they ate rattlesnake? I have been fortunate enough to be invited to a game feed or two and had it also myself.
Hmm.
But yeah, that is such a cool thing we have in our state, and you know, even the area you live in, you're in a good area. You're in a really good area
Hmm.
for them. Even I am too. If I go just a little bit north of where I am, and actually even not far in my backyard, there's a couple dens I know of them. But um,
That's cool.
yeah, super cool creature. I usually leave them alone. I like taking pictures of them. I don't really like to pick them up, but
Yeah. I
um,
know getting into it, I'm actually very happy I got into it because the education I've taken from like where they live, how they act, how to avoid them to not get bit while you're out there turkey hunting in the spring on a warm day.
right,
They they're out of all the snakes I've handled, because you're out there looking for them, you end up finding other snakes. Rattlesnakes are by far the kindest of them all. They don't You pick up a rattlesnake and they buzz at you. And once in a while you get one that strikes the stick and stuff.
right.
But for the most part, you pick them up, they buzz. As soon as you set them back down, they stop buzzing and they just slither back to the cover. Whereas if you pick up like a garter snake or something, my God, it's twisting, turning, striking. They're
Yeah,
they're just nasty. But the rattlesnake's actually pretty calm snake.
yeah,
And you have to get really unlucky to get bit by one while hunting. You have to step on one, or either that, or just be screwing around with it like I am when I'm out there handling them. But you have to just get unlucky, I think. If you're just cautious and take your time, you should never really get bit.
yeah. They are pretty docile when it comes to it. I know I've seen plenty of them, and they're way more afraid of you than you should be for them, you
No,
know.
absolutely.
But so you know that season kind of wraps up, man, and then what do you jump into? You jump into some small game, or what do you do? What are you doing going into deer season?
Yeah. So snake season always ends like I think the last day of July. So you got that month of August, and that's when I start really ramping up the 3D shoots. I'm always fishing, but that's when I really start picking up the bow and I'm really shooting. We start shooting pretty early. We'll probably start going to 3Ds here next month.
Hmm.
But 3D, we start doing a lot. We do a lot of 3D shoots, shooting the recurves. It's a lot of fun practice. But then September comes around. I'm a really big squirrel hunter. I love hunting squirrel. And I know when I was younger, they always had the youth day to come in a week before, which is like the second Saturday of October.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
I know growing up, I was like, man, I wish they'd bring in squirrel in like September, giving us a month to hunt before deer season. And they did it. First couple of years that they had it, I did not have much success in September. It was so thick and there was so much feed that they didn't really have to come down the ground, so you just weren't seeing the squirrels. And then after hunting for a couple of years, we kind of fine-tuned it, and we really discovered if you just really focus on hickory trees and just be patient, in the early season, you can really pound them. The last 2 years, or this past year wasn't that great, but the year before, we really pounded them in September, me and my dad. But I love hunting squirrels. I love chasing black squirrels. I've shot 9 black squirrels in PA now, and I've been chasing that 10th one. It's been eluding me. I know of about 6 different ones, different spots, and just being out at school, I haven't made the time to go after and chase them. But yeah, I've been getting to squirrel hunt in September, and now I'm starting to dive in some waterfowl. So this year, I didn't really hunt much geese, but I was starting to scout spots for mostly like next year. Just dabbling my toe in.
Yeah, but tell you right now, if you're gonna get into birds, if you're gonna get into fowl hunting, you better get your wallet out.
That's why we didn't really get into it, because I'm a broke college student,
Yeah,
and
right.
I need to save a couple dollars for the bar.
Oh my goodness, man,
But
I
yeah, I'm
know.
looking forward to getting into that. I'm trying. I was like, with hunting, I don't like to half-ass it. I like to do it right and get the
Yep.
best of the best with all my equipment, because in the
Well,
time when it comes down to it, it's going to screw you.
yeah. Well,
That's
here's
how I feel with everything. So I didn't want to buy some like cheap decoys and a cheap blind and stuff. So I just kind of spent this year doing the scouting part and trying to get some spots for next year. And I found a couple spots I think will turn out. So we'll see how it goes.
well, I mean, the biggest thing, and I'll agree with you on that one is when you spend as much time and are as invested into what we do as guys like us are, there is no, you need to step up and get the good stuff. I'm
Hmm.
not saying you can't get it done without it, but the fact is, sometimes it works out a little better if you have that stuff,
Yeah, I have to be running the best of the best just for my own confidence sake of it. Like each one of my arrows is probably $45, and I have a quiver full of 5 of them. So
My goodness.
yeah,
Yeah, that's a lot, brother. That is a lot. Hey, I guess you don't miss though, right? I mean, that's what you got to do. You got
yeah,
aim small, miss small. What it cost you? It cost you a lot of sleep and some money, huh?
absolutely.
So, um, but like you were saying, man, that archery season comes around, and I mean, I don't know about you, but I know for me, it's like I had fun and I had all this fun, and it's like a lock in. It's like I got to get deer on the ground. But how did your deer season go this year here in Pennsylvania?
Archery was good. It was good. I saw a couple of nice bucks. I never really got the opportunity to get a good shot off, but it was good. I started out quick. The first morning, I was hunting a mock scrape I made,
Mm-hmm.
and then I was hunting. I had a little food plot there too. I had a company called Solu Cow reach out to me, and they wanted to use their line to plant stuff, and it worked out really great just for a little throw and grow plot. I put a mock scrape this morning, had a nice little 6-point, and a spike come right by, and I had got good film them. And then about 20 minutes later, I got a call from my dad. He said he hit a nice 10-point, so went and helped him track it. And here, my dad was tagged out first morning at 7:30 on about 110, 115-inch 10-point.
Nice, man.
Which
Yeah.
for me and him was a quick start, and I escaped. I could throughout school. School kind of holds me back for archery, and
Mm-hmm.
like you said, once archery hits, I pretty much drop everything. Like
Yeah.
archery is definitely not my favorite just because of how wrapped up you can. Like I said, I love hunting everything, and archery can really take that time away from hunting everything.
Yep.
So like if I can, I would like to get a buck early. That way I can hunt other things. But when it's archery season, I'm hunting archery with my recurve.
Yeah.
And being in school, I haven't been able to scout as many areas as I have been in the past. So I was hunting the same areas that I was before, but I was seeing bucks, and just trying to think back. I think I saw 20 bucks in archery, and of those 20, I think 5 were a buck out of shot, and then 2 of them were big bucks. I believe it was October 30th. I was seeing a bunch of does. I'm like, it was a nice cold night. I'm like, this is looking good. And right before dark, I looked some little grunt sequence, and I heard something crashing behind me. I turned around. Here come down an 8-point. It was probably about 140. And he stopped behind me 20 yards. And I thought there's a trail that comes right beside my tree stand about 6 yards. The same trail I shot my buck on last year with my recurve. I thought he was going to keep coming. He ended up coming down. We had a stare off for about 5 minutes. And he just didn't see what he liked. He turned around and went back up the hill where he came from, back up to the field. But that was a pretty close encounter, and that was one of the bigger bucks I've seen in Pennsylvania. Wow. And then later on the season, I had a buck about 120, an antler 8-point. He come in. It was about 10 o'clock in the morning, and I just at that time I was like, man, I think I'm about to leave. I didn't see anything at all that morning. I got up my stand. I practiced my bow. I threw it back like 3 or 4 times, hanging around my tree.
Mm-hmm.
I just put it up. I was gonna take my camera down. And I look up, and here he comes. He did a perfect 35-yard circle around me, and I can only shoot my bow comfortably to I'd shoot 31 yards if I knew the range on the dot, because if you miss range with a I shoot by 2 to 3 yards, you're going to miss your mark completely.
Right.
Especially those longer distances. So I have to guess my yardage exactly right from 0 to 31 yards to hit my mark and put a lethal shot on them.
Yeah, that is impressive, brother. And that's why I always just, I always give it up for the trad guys, because what they do is it's a lot of skill, and it's a lot of practice, I know
it's a lot of time. It's a term I call being hungry.
Right.
You ever heard that term? But my family's always used it as being hungry, which is just you're too worried about filling your tag and sending pictures to other guys of the buck you got rather than how you got it. To me, it's more important of how you do things. Mm-hmm. And that's why I like hunting with recurve and self-filming, because I feel like that's the hardest way to do it, and that's how I want to do it.
Yeah. I would say it is, man. Especially the self-film part. Just the amount of patience it takes to get that shot on camera before you're, going to shoot, and then to have the mental psyche to be able to keep everything together at the same time
Hmm.
is it's really hard. It really is. And then also, you got to remember, you got to lug all that stuff in with you, and you
Oh
might
yeah,
be
I carry
hunting
so much stuff in the woods. It's not even funny. My
right.
packs, so that can't. I need to upgrade my camera gear a little bit and get some lighter stuff. But right now, you feel my backpack. You're like, holy crap.
Right. Well, man, there's a lot that goes into that aspect then, then there's physical fitness involved. There's, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it that people aren't seeing. Just to get, a 10-second clip of you getting something to kill on
Yeah,
camera.
exactly.
The amount that goes into it is pretty wild, but it's definitely it's worth it. I think so. It really is.
Yeah, and I was fortunate. I got 2 does my recurve in archery season. The first one I got on October 16th. It was October 24th. I got one on October 24th and then a doe on November 16th.
Hmm.
The one I got on October 24th was just it's actually kind of special because the first deer I ever got with a recurve was an 8-point, and I got it on October 24th of 2017, and then 7 years later I got a deer the same day, and I got phenomenal footage. It was a big, lone, mature doe. She come up through bleeding. I thought there was gonna be a buck following her for sure, but there wasn't.
Hmm.
She got up at the mock scrape. My dad had made it this stand,
Hmm.
and she gave me about a 14-yard shot and hit her a little back, but she only ran about 30 yards. And I have the whole thing on video, nice and crystal clear. Come out really good.
Now, that's the second time I heard you say about mock scrapes. So, do you hunt a lot of mock scrapes?
Yeah, every stand location that we have, we make a mock scrape.
Yeah, I do the same
It's,
thing. I
and especially with the recurve, like I only want to shoot 15 yards. So like the way I know, like last year I didn't get my buck to a rifle, and I'll get to that story too. But during in the archery, my buddy already tagged out, and every day he's like, you need to try this or go here. I'm like,
hmm.
he doesn't realize that I need to be in a spot where I can guarantee that deer is going to be at like 15 yards.
Right. Yep.
Just for one, I need to come in nice where I can try to film it. And then second off, I need it to be a nice, like it has to almost go perfect for the recurve to work.
Right.
So I have to hunt different spots. Like sometimes the spots I have, they're not the best spot, but they're a spot I know if a buck comes through, it's going to be 12.
Yeah.
So I have to like risk this and that and weigh my options to try to get that buck to be at about 12 yards.
Yeah, it's tough, man.
Yeah, everything is hard with the recurve. That's what makes it so fun for me is just that challenge.
Yeah. So do you go in and have like preset tree stands and such, or you hunt from the
Yeah,
ground, or what's
I got a saddle this year and I dabbled into it. I didn't really like the saddle. My bow's 66 inches long, so it's really hard to saddle unless they're perfectly right to your left. But I dabbled that because I started hunting a little bit more public land for deer, which in the past I really haven't. But yeah, for the most part, I go in preseason and I scout out, and I mostly hunt pinch points. Like if you go back a few years, I had a spot, it had a land bridge.
Mm-hmm.
There was a big steep ravine that comes through the middle of this big bedding area, and there was a man-made land bridge. I'm guessing for cattle way back when. And man, did the freaking game use that bridge because they walk down the ravine 100 yards just to walk across that bridge because it was easy for them.
Right.
And I ended up getting 2 bears and a Pope and Young buck off that bridge. They were all 3 of them standing in the same spot.
Yeah, man. I watched your video of you shooting that one bear a while back. I ran across it on YouTube. It probably would have been what'd you shoot that, like 2020 or something?
I got one in 2019. 20.
Okay. Yeah. Which I can't remember if you had both on there, but I can remember watching that video. It's awesome video watching you shoot.
Yeah, I was very fortunate. My buddy came. I think it's probably the first one. Was there snow on the ground?
Yep.
Yeah, that's definitely the best video I have. My buddy came and filmed it, and I'm very glad that he was there because he got the bear coming the whole way in, and it comes right across that land bridge, and I squeaked to stop it, and I got lucky and put a perfect shot, and he only ran about 40 yards.
Yeah.
Death wine, and the crazy thing about that was I actually hit a bear there 10 days before. There was not a living thing on my trail camera for 10 days, and the one day, it was the second to last day of bear archery. I went back. I'm like, I got to give it one more try, and lucked out big time.
Yeah. Well, man, there's luck, and then there's being at the right place at the right time because of calculated decisions. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, yes, don't get me wrong, there is luck, but then there's times where you're like, something tells you, like, hey, I scouted there. I knew it was good. I'm going back there, and I'm going to make it happen. And then you go in there with that confidence, and for whatever reason, it happens sometimes like that.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's pretty wild though, brother. For you to do that in Pennsylvania and then be killing them with a trad setup, like it's pretty wild. And my hat's definitely off to you, brother.
Yeah, I
So
appreciate that. There's a lot of behind the scenes work with all the extra time that goes in to make that happen for sure.
yeah, for sure, man. I can attest to that too. So once your archery seasons usually wrap up, man, what are you getting into then? Do you like the second season for the small game? I.e. pheasants um, or do you want to talk about some rifle stories? Wherever you want to go with this, I'm more than intrigued. So
I'll I'll tell my rifle story. I'll be real quick with it, but for the most part, I grew up hunting archery my whole life. Like I started hunting archery when I was 8. I got my first archery. So I've almost all my bucks have been with bow equipment. I started using that with the crossbow when I was young, and then I did a compound for 1 year. Then I got into the trad, and I've been doing trad for 7 years. And I've been thankful enough that I've got a big game animal in all 7 years of hunting with the trad bow so far.
yeah, it's
So
awesome.
I've been doing pretty well for myself. But yeah, when the rifle comes around, I really dread it. Like when I put that fluorescent orange on in the morning, I gag. I just yeah, I mean it's fun. The first day of rifle is always a blast, just like that camaraderie and whole state hunting.
Yep.
But also just like all the guys out there and all the deer that get killed. It's just like But I did join the Orange Army this year, and the first Tuesday we got nice heavy snow, and we went up pretty deep in some public land mountain on some public mountain bucks here, and cut a fresh track, and we tracked it around for a while. There's a laurel cut, and come up to a tram road, and I seen it crossing the laurel bed. I was like, okay, there's a bed right in here, probably somewhere. And right when I thought of that, I seen some brush like move, so I knew a deer jumped up and went down. It was like running parallel to the tram road bend. So I went sprinting around, and here it comes out of the laurel and crossed the tram road. Here was my dad got a glass on. He was with me. He said it was probably about 25 inch 8 or 10 point. Jumped out and it stopped for a split second, and I just threw. And I had to clean this. I was just sick.
Mm-hmm.
You think of like all this practice and stuff, and all the time shooting my recurve, and I haven't missed a big game animal in about since 2017. Yeah. And here I am with rifle, and I just missed it. But yeah, I was just sick, and then I kept pounding it, and it was the second Saturday I went out, and I remember the weather was bad. It was real, and I almost didn't even go out that evening because I was just, at that point in the year I was getting sick of it, and I was like, I'd rather just wait. And in years prior that I had to hunt with a rifle when I had the recurve. I would take the recurve the whole season. Mm-hmm. So this year I kind of I got away from that. Just like I'm just gonna go and try to throw this buck that I got put enough time in. Like I didn't want to film, and so I was sitting at home, and it got to be like 3:30, and it gets dark down about 5:15. I was like, do I want to go? And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go. Like, what else am I gonna do? Like, if you don't go, you're gonna regret it.
Right.
So I went up. I'm like, I'm gonna try this spot. I hadn't been to this spot in about 3 years, and because they cut it a while back, and it was like bare. So I'm like, I'm gonna go sit up there, just peek around and see what happens. So I get to the top, and it's a pretty big clear cut, but it's about 2 years old now, thick, but it's just low enough you could see deer across the whole thing. So I peek down over, and there's a spike bedded. He jumps up and runs across. I'm like, okay, well, there's definitely some deer here if he's bedded right there. So I just kind of picked out a tree I could see the best, and I sat down and crossed, and within 25 minutes, I saw 4 bucks and 4 does. Like, this is insane. And I was watching a big half-rack 2-point about 250 yards. He was tending a doe, and I heard something real close to me. I looked down, and there's a 5-point marching down through the high goldenrods. His ears were pinned straight back, so I'm like, I'm just going to let him walk to see what he's walking to.
Right.
And you end up walking down to a little 3-point. And this is the second Saturday of rifle. Like, my time was running out. I didn't really care. I put my time in, and I was like, I'm going to shoot this 5-point. So he ended up giving me a nice broadside shot at about 100 yards, 110. And I put it on, and I dropped him right in his tracks. And that was one of the happiest I've ever was with a deer. And it was about a 35-inch 5-point.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well,
yeah, I was just happy I filled my buck tag in Pennsylvania. Sometimes it's just not that easy, especially when you get caught up with the recurve and chasing nice bucks.
yeah.
It's easy to let a season slip away. But yeah, I was very thankful to get that buck, and I found a great spot for next year because I stopped hunting it because they cut it all, and here that clear cut probably is going to make it better.
I'm sure. I'm sure. I mean, any clear cuts, probably give them 4 years, 3 to 4 years, and they really start producing some really nice deer in them. But like you were saying, that's one of them things that kind of sets Pennsylvania apart from a lot of other states, and what that is there's always a time where you need to take a chance and just do it, right? Because
Hmm.
I know I always say to people, my archery season go by, and like I always get that chance, at least one chance. And whether or not I botch something or I get winded or some sort of human error that comes of it that I don't kill an animal in it, I got that shot, right? I had the bow back. The deer was 20 to 30 yards, 35 yards. Maybe the wind shifted on me, whatever happened that I couldn't get the shot, but I'm always happy if I get that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Kind of just if I put myself in position to get that and I made an error, no big deal. If Mother Nature said, not today, thermal shift or wind shift or something, or even this past year, my deer got my ground scent, and what it was I walked down the trail and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna walk back to that tree that's 15 yards behind this one because I think I'll be able to see better.
Hmm.
Well, just so happened that deer came right on. All he had to do was take 2 more steps, but he hit my ground scent right where I was at, and I knew that was going to happen when he was coming in.
It always goes like that.
Right?
It always seems like they just have that sixth sense and they know.
Yeah, man. Well, if I was hanging out in your living room, you'd probably know I was there.
That's very true.
So
That's very, very true.
for sure, man. So so the seasons wrap up for you, and you got your meat in the freezer. Big game creatures are down. They're dead. They're done. Do you
Yep.
you lean in and grab the shotgun then for a second season fun, or what do you usually do going into that time of the year?
Yeah, do the fall turkey. That's always a blast. I
Yep.
really like doing that the late season right on Thanksgiving for
Okay.
fall turkey. That's always fun. We've got a couple birds on Thanksgiving now, which is that's special to get a turkey on Thanksgiving is very cool.
That is cool. Super cool.
And then, but this year we did a lot of pheasant hunting. I've done it before, and I do it every year a little bit. But
Hmm.
I met a good buddy down here at school, and he has a pointer, so we went out a couple of times, and
Yeah.
man, that was a lot of fun. And with the pointer, it really changed the game because times I did with dogs, with the kid had flush dogs.
Right.
You never really know when they're going up. When we have a good pointer and they go right to that bird and point it, it makes it easy, and
Yeah.
that's a lot of fun doing that.
It is, man. A good friend of mine, he has them too, and uh, there's just something about hunting with dogs, and it doesn't matter what you're doing, you know. It's just a really close, special connection you have of being able to
Hmm.
take creatures, take game like that. I don't know, for me at least, I like rabbit hunting with the boys and all that stuff. But when we bring the dogs out, and whether you're doing, pheasants, a rabbit, um, coyote, whatever it is, even like my brother and I, we were up in Maine and we treat a bear and shot a bear with dogs.
That'd be cool. That'd be really cool.
Oh
That
man,
or even like mountain lion with the hounds. That'd be
yeah.
really cool.
Oh man, that's so cool. Yeah, I'll have to have my brother on and tell a story. It's so cool, man. We had the bear up the tree, and when they get mad, they do that chop that with their gums.
Yep.
Oh man,
Yeah.
it was going nuts. It was cool. It was really awesome.
Yeah,
Um,
that's an eerie sound when they do that, especially in like a cornfield at night when they're
yeah,
chopping at
exactly.
you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. And it was, when he shot it, it come down, and the guy's yelling like, "Hey, put another one in," and we're standing there. I'm like, "Holy shit!" Like it's about to go down. But no, super super cool. But yeah, I love talking. And honestly, the show's statistics show very heavily that people really love to hear stories about people hunting with their dogs, and I get it. I know why.
Yeah, there's
Um,
definitely a special connection between a man and their dog for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. So, yeah, pheasants. It's a lot of fun. Our state does a pretty good job with that stuff, man. I mean, we have the pheasant tag now, and you can go and find some stock pheasants all over the place. It's so funny
Yeah.
when they stalk them birds, though, man, because they're all over the place. Like,
Oh yeah, it's almost like the day they stalk's almost brutal. Like I don't even really like going the day they stalk because
Right.
it's almost just like a
the dumb ones get weeded out quick.
yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fun, but it's pretty bad.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's like a genocide out there.
Basically.
Yeah, right. But they're good, man. They're good to eat.
Oh, they're delicious.
Yeah, I have some really good recipes. I'll have to shoot a couple your way.
Yeah,
Because
my girlfriend made wild turkey is always my favorite. And then my girlfriend introduced me to this new like barbecue bacon wrap the way she does pheasants, and that's by far I think that's why I hunted so much pheasant just to get meat for her.
just so you're eating good, right?
Yeah.
It's funny. Yeah, for sure. But do you guys get into doing the rabbit hunting in a second season then?
Yeah, we didn't do as much this year as we did last year, but we've been doing a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah,
we
and
went
I know,
out.
just moving into, I know that you had a very large accomplishment this year, and you were able to find one of those white fellers out there.
Yeah, that was very cool. That was one of my. I made 2 goals for myself for the year.
Mm-hmm.
For something different was I wanted to get a snowshoe, and I knew that was more reasonable, and I wanted to try to trap a bobcat because I've been getting into trapping too. But the snowshoe I was able to accomplish, and that was very cool. You know, I had never seen one before this year. That one I got was the first one I've ever seen, and I know. So we went up and we were hunting them, and we had a couple of dogs with us, and we hunted a clear cut in the morning, and we got them in a couple. We never saw them, but they ran their circle and holed up. And it was actually a real small clear cut, so they ran a real small circle and holed up. So we weren't sure if they were cottontail or snowshoe, but the area we were in, I'd be pretty surprised if they weren't snowshoe.
Mm-hmm.
And we decided we were going to hit some. That was a real fresh cut. It was really thick. And I noticed kind of like where you find grouse is where you find snowshoe, and like that 20 to 25-year-old cut range seems to be the best for like the small game, in my opinion. And so we started hitting some older clear cuts, and we were going down the road, and right from and they stick out like a sore thumb. The day we went, the first day, it was raining, so we saw it sitting out in the woods. Like, holy crap, there it is! So we pull it off. We get the dogs out, and they get going, and they instantly get right on them. And my buddy pulled up and shot, and he missed, or he might have hit it a little bit. I'm not really sure, but he shot, and it ran down my way, and I saw it out there. I kind of like sprinted where I seen it because the thing was fast too, like.
Oh yeah.
They have big feet and they're big and they can move. I mean, it's a cottontail can move, but not like a snowshoe. It's like a white lightning bolt.
Mm-hmm.
And it ran down, and the dogs are. I got an opening. I took a shot real quick, and I made sure I had a 3-inch shell in my gun just in case I had to reach out and touch him. And I'm glad I did because then I rolled the rabbit and went right down.
Yeah.
And I walked up to it in just disbelief. It was is kind of like, it was just like, I've never seen one. You imagine them as goofy, but gorgeous. It had nice marbling underneath the white fur, and I'm going to get it mounted, so it should turn out to be a really cool mount.
Yeah, it's definitely worth getting mounted, especially PA. We go up to, and my dad has a very close friend that lives up in Maine, and sometimes in March we'll go up and we'll be able to hunt them. And I've got to be lucky enough to kill a couple of them, and they are, man, there's so much, you wouldn't think they're that different, but like you said, your buddy might have hit it. And, when you're talking about a cottontail rabbit, one BB can kill it pretty easily.
Uh-huh.
They're tough. They're not, the hairs are tough. It takes a little bit to kill them,
Yeah. Even when I got up, I mean, it was pretty much dead, but it was definitely getting hit with a 3-inch shell
right.
of a 20 gauge. It was definitely a tough critter. I mean, they got to be tough to survive.
Yeah.
Especially in Pennsylvania anymore with the way the winters are and the fact that they don't hole up or anything.
Yeah, they just molt. They live on top. Yeah. They're a whole different animal. I mean, when it comes to dogs and everything, they're gonna run them the same way, and they do run, circles just like other rabbits. But talking about if you got a buck, they could run 2, 3 miles, 4 miles circles. They're a whole different animal when it comes to that stuff. But that's awesome, man. That is such a large accomplishment in our state, and when where to find them, you don't ever tell anybody where they're at.
You keep them. It's very elusive critter. It's almost like the Pennsylvania unicorn in a way.
Yeah, it is, man. It's unfortunate that it is that way, but it goes right back to what we were talking about before, and thank God we have the predator guys that we have out there because we need them. Honest to God, you need them.
Yep.
The ecosystem is what it is, but we don't help whenever we decide we're going to stalk more predators and
Yeah, exactly.
or not even stalk them. You just look at the way that the coyotes are able to breed. It's wild. It is wild how fast they can breed.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how hard they are to kill on top of that. Unless you have
they're smart. There's no doubt about
if you want the upper hand on them, and you got some people that know what they're doing, and you get some good houndsmen out there, going after them with dogs is a lot of fun. And you just, for those of you that are listening that don't let the dog guys on your property to run the coyotes, you guys need to open your doors and let the boys come through and run them through there because they can get them. They can get them. But, what them guys run into a lot is a lot of private property, and guys don't want them in there. I mean,
yeah, you're right.
I get it. I have a lot of private property, but at the same time, if you want to come through and run coyotes, come on, bring it. Run them.
Yeah, you definitely need the guys with the dogs running those predators. So that seems like the way to go if you want to get a coyote or a bobcat or something with dogs.
Yeah, so cool, man. The bobcat thing, being able to run them with a dog and get them, that just reminds me of like a miniature version of being out west on a big kitty. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, but man, you've lived in Pennsylvania for your whole life, and the culture. You've seen enough to have a good voice. And what are some things that you really love that we do in this state? And it doesn't have to be hunting. It doesn't have to be fishing. I mean, that's the road that we're on, and that's the conversation we're having. But what are some things that you really like, right? And on the flip side of that, what are some things that you'd like to step back and say, hey, man, I'd like to bring this to everybody's attention, and maybe this is something we can look at changing?
Mm-hmm. I think Pennsylvania does a really good job with their youth programs, getting kids out there. Because I know, like my dad and grandpa, they weren't allowed to hunt until they were 12, and I wasn't allowed to hunt till they changed the law when I was 5 going on 6. So I wasn't allowed to hunt at all my first 5 years of life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I could maybe see it get age lower than 12 because I got my first turkey when I was 6 and my first buck when I was 7.
Right.
So I was more than capable. But I think do the youth days and stuff they have, like a youth can hunt a week before the season up to they're 16 years old. Like I think that's a pretty good program they have going on to get youth introduced into the sport of hunting. But some things I could see changing is the one thing I don't like is the bear muzzleloader. Bear population was definitely getting too high and needed regulated, and the muzzleloader season 100% did that. But I think when they brought that bear muzzleloader season, it was 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And 2019, 2020, 21, and 22 it was like the bear harvest, I believe. And this past year was one of the record lows. And I think that bear muzzleloader, I think it did the trick of leveling up the population, but I think we need to get rid of it and just go just straight archery and your 4 days of rifle.
Yeah.
I think it's just doing too much damage because if you can find a bear in October, you're more than likely going to be able to, especially if you can shoot 100 yards.
Right.
So that's something I think I'd like to see. That's something I'd definitely like to see change. I think they should get rid of that bear muzzleloader until that population re-rises up or something like that. And also, I think they just gave out too many doe tags in the state of Pennsylvania, which I don't know the numbers behind that too much. I know, like, I hunt like 2E area for deer. And they're giving out, I can't remember what the number was. It was insane the amount of doe tags they're giving out for CWD regulation, which I'm not too keen behind all that either. I think that's kind of a hoax. I don't think he's doing anything to deer population like they say it is. But
well, I just let you in on a quick fact about CWD. I've killed more deer than CWD.
I believe that. I can get behind that for sure.
Oh, I don't want to bark up that tree. If we do bark up that tree ever and really get into that conversation, I'll have to get somebody on that is way more educated.
Statistics and numbers. Yeah,
right.
I'm a big statistic. I'm a big numbers guy. I love reading statistics and stuff like that. So that's why I didn't want to say too much because I don't know the numbers. But yeah. I don't know about all that.
I mean, all it comes down to in that topic is what I said is true. There's they can't prove that a deer had CWD until it's dead, which is wild. That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
So just knowing that alone is kind of like, now as far as all the conspiracy, this, that, I will tell you one thing that's for sure is there's a lot of money that flows whenever that's brought up. So, I mean, it's not by accident that sometimes, that word is used in certain situations, and the funding that comes from the government, the federal government into that stuff and the state governments into that stuff it's a lot. So, I mean, maybe that word's used as a gateway to get money for something that's going to good use. You don't know. You don't know. But yeah, I agree with you. But you were saying the doe tags. Yeah, man. It's pretty wild. That I think even into the second season there, you could still go over the counter and buy 2E.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised by that either because yeah, I also hunt 2E. I hunt 2E and 4D for the most part. And yeah, they're both like that. I'm in a heavy CWD zone, and not to bring up the CWD thing again, but where I live, if the deer crosses the road, then it's not a CWD deer anymore. I guess that the ones that have it, they don't cross the road. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
I would,
right. So yeah, it's one of them things. I get it. You have borders, all that stuff. I don't think just killing a bunch of deer is the way that you go about CWD. But at the same time, I'm all for whatever makes us have the great bucks that we're making, because we are making some very, very good looking mature animals in our state. We're made leaps and bounds, and it's, it is most definitely a lot to do with the antler restrictions for sure.
Yeah, the antler restrictions 100% why that works for sure. And the fact that they even talk about removing the antler, crazy in my mind.
Yeah.
Just go back to how it was in the 80s whenever my dad and grandpa were hunting together still, and they're shooting a 4-point, and that was one of the nicest bucks in town.
Oh, man, march it around town because, look, they shot a buck, right?
Yep.
Yeah, pretty wild stories, I mean, my pap tells me the same things, and I love listening to them old guys talk, man. They have the coolest stories, and you see those pictures, and it's wild. Like, next time you're looking at old pictures, look and see, there ain't no freaking trees in these pictures. They just freaking strip mined everything. Like,
yep.
They just cut all these trees. And like, I can't imagine the winds and stuff back then. And, you were talking about up north. And, there's some stories about up north to where they killed the deer so bad they had to reintroduce the deer.
I didn't know that, but it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, I'll have to send you some stuff. I know some people that live up that way, just above Cross Forks, and they have some really cool stories from that area.
Yeah, I'll add one more thing for you in here, but there's a story. The camp beside mine in Cross Fork has a book log for everyone that's ever been there since like the 1920s. And there was a group of guys that stayed there back in roughly the 1920s, maybe 1930s. They tracked and shot the last wolf in Pennsylvania, maybe even east of Mississippi. I know it was definitely in Pennsylvania. Back from that camp in Cross Fork in like the 1920s, they shot and killed it from that camp.
Yeah, that's cool, man. That is some really cool stuff.
Yeah, there's just like a lot of history in Pennsylvania hunting, and it's very, very cool to look back on.
Yeah, I mean, it's the heritage. That's why this show does so well, and that's why people listen to it, and that's why they want to hear from people of Pennsylvania, because, believe it or not, Pennsylvania has very prideful people, and they take a lot of pride in their state. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At least I do. I love living
I know.
here.
I'd argue with anybody that the best hunters come out of Pennsylvania.
We will go toe to toe with anybody, and then there's the flip side, because we'll grab our fishing rod and we're gonna outfish you then too.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? I mean, we might not.
Yeah,
man, we might not have the best bass fishermen in America, because a lot of other places have better warm water and stuff than us. But I'll tell you what, you want to go out on mountain streams and you want to go toe to toe with the Pennsylvania boys, you better know what you're doing, because
yeah, exactly.
I mean, we have really good waterways, and can you imagine if all of our waterways, if you took all the pollution out of our waterways, we would, I don't know that we wouldn't be top 3 in fishing.
Yeah, there's around, I know you like around, because I like going up, I have the camps up north, so obviously I like going north, but in my opinion, like the northern, like Potter County streams are just nicer to fish in.
Yeah.
I know if you go around like Central PA and the Bellefonte area, like the Spring Creek and Juniata, you catch a lot of fish and you catch wild fish. But when you're fishing there and you have a highway beside you and you can barely hear yourself think, compared to fishing up north where all you hear is just birds chirping in the riffle.
Mm-hmm.
But even around home, there's probably 5 or 6 streams that are very fishable, but they're bright orange. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
if those were cleaned and more properly taken care of back then, there could be a ton of more trout streams. There's already quite a few, but there could really be a lot.
Yeah, I mean, the area I live in is the same, man. Like there's a waterway that's, I mean, it's perfect for brook trout. And unfortunately, like, I mean, it's just a snake the whole way down, and it just has so much undercut and mountain laurel around it. Every time you're around it, you just can't help but think, oh my God, like the amount of brook trout that I should be pulling out of this is, but it is what it is. And like I said, I never dog anything that has to do with coal. If it wasn't for coal, my family probably wouldn't even be around. I probably wouldn't be alive. My family has such a heritage into mining and everything, but it just sucks that some of the people that were out before didn't clean up the shit that they were doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I just don't think they knew better.
No, and I think you're right.
They didn't think about the future then.
Right, and you know what I mean? I get it to a degree. I just wish that we could go in and clean up some stuff. Like, then let's start some sort of big fund for bringing in lots of limestone slurry and stuff like that and trying to fix up what we have. But
yeah.
Down the road, man. Maybe somebody has a pile of money and they come and do that stuff. But until then, I'll just keep chasing blue lines and finding the ones that aren't marked. You know what I mean?
That's just as fun too, though.
Yeah, that's what I like to do. And when I find them streams and I tear into a 7-inch brook trout, I'm giddy. I'm like, it's like Christmas morning for me. So, but hey, man, it's been great having you on. We definitely want to catch up with you later in the year at some point. Me and you were talking about maybe getting together and doing something cool for the show here later this year. But
yeah, I'm absolutely down for that. Definitely keep me in the loop for that, and let's definitely try to do that.
Yeah, I'm all for that. But before you go, man, tell everybody where they can find you, like you were talking about there in the beginning, and how they can get a hold of you.
I have I have Instagram as Gauge Gulvas. You just look me up, I'll be there. And then you can get my YouTube channel. You can get on Hardwoods Hunting TV on YouTube, and then Instagram account for my YouTube channel as well. So Instagram, YouTube, leave a comment, send me a DM. I'll respond back within the day for sure. Yeah. I'm pretty easy guy to get a hold of if you want to talk. And I want to BS about hunting. I'm all ears. I love it.
I feel it, man.
All day long.
I feel it. So, well, thank you, brother. Thank you for coming on the show. It's been great having you. And
thank you. It's a very big honor. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. We will talk to you soon and keep up with your journey. Tight lines and good blood trails, man.
You as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have finished another episode of the Keystone Chronicles podcast. What a great episode, Gauge, man, coming through. That was awesome. Really, really enjoyed some of the stories he has, man. He's always on an adventure. I'm like so jealous. Like to live vicariously through him. But guys, if you enjoy this show and you know somebody who you think needs to be on here, please reach out to me. I can only find so many guests on my own and be recommended by so many people on the social media platforms. But and I know that there are plenty of individuals here in our great state of Pennsylvania that are hiding out from me. They may be older or they may just not like the social media presence. Shoot them my way, guys. Get down and sit with them and get some thoughts from them and some knowledge, and that's exactly what this is all about. So, guys, thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.